I still don't know if I'm more hurt, angry, or just numb, but I need to get this out somewhere because it's been eating me alive. If you've ever had family turn their back on you when you were at your lowest, you'll probably understand the kind of ache I'm talking about. For years ago, I hit rock bottom. I was in my late 20s, my marriage was falling apart, and my health took a brutal hit at the same time. I had an emergency surgery that left me recovering for months, unable to work. The bills piled up. My partner at the time bailed because, in his words, he couldn't handle being with someone who was broken. I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't even buy groceries some weeks. I remember crying in the shower with the water running just to hide the sound from my roommate. That's when I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I called my parents and asked for help. Growing up, they always made it clear they valued strength and independence. Asking for anything was seen as weakness. My younger brother, let's call him Nate, was the golden child. Anything he did was somehow spun into brilliance, while I was the responsible one, the quiet one. I worked my way through school, kept jobs, never asked for much. So when I called and told them what I was going through, it took every bit of pride out of me. They didn't even hesitate. Not to help, but to say no. My dad told me, flatly, that I had made my choices and had to deal with the consequences. My mom said she and Dad weren't in a position to bail out adult children. I didn't even ask for much, just some help with rent for 2 months until I could stand again. But they refused. What hurt most wasn't even the no. It was the way they said it. Cold. Like I wasn't even family, just some stranger asking for a handout. I hung up the phone and sat in my dark apartment and realized, for the first time in my life, that I was truly alone. I managed somehow. I picked up freelance work from bed. I relied on a couple of friends who brought me food. It took time, but I pulled myself out. I rebuilt. And I told myself that day I'd never ask my parents for anything again. Fast forward to last year. My brother Nate, the same one who never had to lift a finger growing up, got caught in one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen up close. He worked in finance, always bragging about deals, acting like he was some kind of genius investor. Turns out, he'd been embezzling money. Not just a little. Over $3.4 million. When the news broke, I thought it was a joke. My phone lit up with messages. People I hadn't talked to in years asked if it was true. And that's when my parents came crawling. The same parents who cut me off when I was crying out for help suddenly remembered I existed. My dad called me one evening, voice shaky, asking if I could lend them some money for legal fees. My mom sent a long, emotional email about how family sticks together during tough times and how they knew I'd understand. They said Nate just made mistakes, and they needed me, their responsible one, to help them get through. I stared at those messages in disbelief. For years ago, I was begging them for maybe $1,000 to survive, and they left me for dead. Now, they were begging me to help cover a multi-million-dollar disaster for the child they've always put above me. The climax for me was when I actually picked up my dad's second call. He started explaining how we're all in this together and how Nate didn't deserve to have his life ruined over a few bad decisions. I lost it. I don't usually yell, but something inside me just cracked. I told him everything I had kept bottled up. The nights I starved, the surgeries, the way I felt abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me most. I told him they had made their choice when they turned their backs on me, that I owed them nothing, that their golden boy wasn't my responsibility. There was a long silence. Then my dad said quietly, "So that's it? You're just going to let your family fall apart?" And I said, "No. You let this family fall apart 4 years ago. I'm just finally accepting it." Then I hung up. Since then, the guilt trips have been relentless. My mom sends me emotional messages about forgiveness and putting the past behind us. My dad tried shaming me, saying I was heartless. Nate himself even reached out once, as if I'd ever have sympathy for him, asking if I could just talk to some people because I know you're good with words. I blocked his number. The truth is, I don't feel heartless. I feel like I finally see clearly. My whole life, I was conditioned to believe that family loyalty was unconditional, that blood mattered above all. But when I was drowning, they watched from the shore. And now, when their favorite child is the one drowning, they expect me to dive in. I can't. I won't. Sometimes, I still feel pangs of guilt. I hear my mom's voice telling me I'm cold. I think about how other people might judge me for not helping. But then I remember lying in that bed, fresh from surgery, eating saltines because that was all I could afford. I remember checking my bank account and crying because I had $14 to my name. And I remember calling my parents, the way my voice shook, and the way they dismissed me like I was nothing. Now they know what it feels like to be desperate. Now they know what it's like to beg. And maybe that makes me petty, but I think it's justice. I don't know if I'll ever forgive them.
I don't know if I even want to.
What I do know is that I'm not their safety net. I'm not responsible for cleaning up the mess they created by always protecting Nate and enabling him. They chose their golden child over me long ago. Now, they can live with that choice. I'm moving forward with my life, finally at peace with the fact that sometimes family isn't really family. Sometimes, they're just people who share your DNA, but never showed up when it mattered. And as harsh as it sounds, when I hear about the chaos there and now, I don't feel sorry anymore. I feel free.